Hey, this is Jonathan from Catapult Case. This is a tutorial video on adding devices to JunctionRelay. So in the previous video, we've covered general navigation, authentication. We set up some data collectors here, and just to confirm, if I navigate into these, I can see all of my lovely sensors from Home Assistant there. I've got some hardware info sensors, Libra hardware monitor, loads. That's useless though if we're not sending it anywhere. That's the whole point of what this does. So let's go to the devices tab, and nothing here right now. That's to be expected. Ooh, I do have a cloud device because I have logged into JunctionRelay Cloud. Will I edit that out? No, I'll leave it there. That's fine. Let's go ahead and add a device. So we will have some videos later on flashing JunctionRelay demo firmware onto ESP32 devices. I've got a whole bunch of them around here already. So I can actually just go ahead and do scan for devices. And you can do a quick scan, and it's going to use MDNS to make sure we only find JunctionRelay software. If I want to scan my whole network, it will show me a list of every single device out there, which is a little excessive for right now. But we can also scan COM ports on the system. Using COM junction, I don't like it. It's a little finicky. We will have a video on COM. It's very much a work in progress. I don't like it. It feels like it's pretty out of date these days compared to using internet protocols. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and scan my network for JunctionRelay devices. And it's pretty quick usually. Obviously, it depends how many devices you have on the network. But I shouldn't have to ramble for more than a few seconds. We're going to see. There we go. Okay. So as I mentioned, I've got multiple devices in my house right now. I've even got some virtual devices running. Did we install the virtual device on here? We did, but it's not running. So this virtual device isn't going to get detected right now. We'll have a video on virtual devices, virtual screens later on. Great for building a cyber deck or having system stats on the same computer that you want to run this on. For now, let's just go ahead and connect to... Which one should we use? Let's use this Matrix LCD panel. I'm going to click on that. Because it's running JunctionRelay firmware, it automatically pulled in a whole bunch of useful information for us, including what its capabilities are, what its device information is. If you add the device, it will just go straight to the list. I want to add and configure. Excellent. Now, JunctionRelay is very much in development right now. It's kind of out there as early access at the time of publishing. So a lot of the screens will change, I expect. Let's give it a name. Matrix Desktop. If I scroll down, that's pretty much all I can do here. Because this is running JunctionRelay firmware, it's kind of pre-baked all of this information for you. If you want to go ahead and change it and override it, you could have entered a custom device, or you can actually change this to be a fully custom device, and it will let me change everything. So keep that in mind. It's not particularly useful right now for this demo. The important thing I wanted to show you, though, is that once we've added a device, we'll come back to heartbeat configuration later on. That's just having JunctionRelay reach out and check that it's alive. There'll be a history implemented later on. The important thing is that JunctionRelay, it's looking for a screen on the target devices. Now, it might not be a screen in a traditional sense. You might have a completely headless ESP device, but you'll see later on when we configure junctions that if you want it to actually send the data to it, it's going to have quote unquote a screen. And the Matrix ESP32 that I just selected, it's running JunctionRelay firmware, so it already went ahead and created it for us, gave it a name, and you can select default templates over here. We'll revisit that when we do junctions. If you add a device that does not have a screen, or for some reason it didn't appear here, you can go ahead and do it manually. Quite often at the bare minimum, and this might be enforced in a future version, is going to have an onboard screen. So again, early access, lots of things to be refined, but that's it. That is our Matrix device added. And now if I go back to devices, it's going to sit here quite happy. And if we did enable heartbeat, heartbeat was on by default, so it's already polling that device over HTTP. Again, it needs to be a firmware that JunctionRelay understands, and that's available in the device exchange and in the GitHub, I should say. So this is already happening. I can change the device refresh, cloud refresh rates. That's all working as expected. Now, if you do have a device that can support it, you can do heartbeat monitoring in different protocols as well. Maybe I don't want HTTP requests every minute. Maybe I want WebSocket, which is a little bit more persistent of a connection. So you can just change the different modes here. You can also add other devices that maybe are not running JunctionRelay firmware, and you can just do ICMP ping, which is the same as you going to a terminal and saying ping this IP address. Of course, if you do that, any device on that IP address will respond and it will think it's that device. So there's a few pros and cons to the different approaches of testing heartbeat. You can also connect to something like a Raspberry Pi and connect to the heartbeat via SSH. So that means the Pi doesn't even need to be running JunctionRelay firmware at all. You know what? Let's do that. Let's go to devices, refresh. Okay, so quick detour here. If I do want to add, let's say, my Pi device. A Pi is not going to present itself on the network scan at the moment. I'm not sure if that's just standard behavior for Pis, but we can just add it as custom. So I know I have a Raspberry Pi on my network, rasp5. I know it's at 10.168.1.27, and I'll give it a unique identifier of rasp5. Now, it's not running JunctionRelay firmware, so what I can do for a heartbeat is just go ahead and log in through SSH. And if I scroll down, it will ask me to enter my credentials. Let's see. Okay. This is early access build right now. I will add the ability to save the credentials here, not in the database, if that's what you want to do. For now, this is going to encrypt it and save it to the JunctionRelay database. Let's just see if that works though. Add and configure. So now we've added the Pi 5 device. Of course, there's no detected information to populate, but what we should see is that it is going to start responding to health checks. And I can do that by going back to devices. I can see the Raspberry Pi is now here. If I scroll to the right, we'll give it a second to actually do a health check. And we'll see, won't we? Devices. Excellent. So that's a great way of setting up a device, and as long as the device can receive and do something with the data, you can send the data to it. As I said, JunctionRelay will insist that you have a screen assigned to it, even if there really isn't. So I'm just going to go back and add onboard screen. You'll see why later on when we work on junctions. Yeah. That's it for devices right now. You'll be able to add as many as you have, and we will use them in junctions later on. Okay, cheers.